Translation error. The surroundings were quiet to the point of feeling oppressive. 3 minutes later, after Shen Ling roughly finished the inspection, gazed complexly at Su Ming, added, "Officer Su Ming is right. The wound on this wrist, indeed, after the deceased fell, secondary harm caused by others. The reason we can reach this conclusion, translation error, can roughly conclude. The deceased fell from the building face up. The occipital bone is comminuted. The limbs were fractured due to the impact. The spine broke into 5 segments. 3 ribs fractured. 1 was inserted into the long bone. Based on the injuries, overall, it looks very serious. But because the heart was unharmed, so there might still be a breath left while falling. But it must be the kind that doesn't live. At the same time, analyze according to the degree of coagulation and the range of each wound. The coagulation range of the wrist artery, clearly lower than several other injured areas, due to the limited total amount of blood in the human body. So in the situation where it cannot be stopped, the earlier the bleeding site, the range of coagulation for platelet formation, nature will become greater. But now, comparing with several major wounds, the range and degree of thrombus around the artery are both relatively low. Moreover, when the deceased just fell from the building, a situation that may not be completely dead yet, this undoubtedly proves that, speaking of which, Shen Ling paused for 2 seconds, gazing directly into the eyes of Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng. Quite serious. Someone wants to ensure he's 100% dead. Someone wants to ensure he is 100% dead. Shen Ling's last words. Undoubtedly, it made the atmosphere tense. Zhu Chengsheng squinted his eyes slightly. Who will it really be? To make a 15-year-old middle school girl completely dead. They have already fallen from the high building. Clearly, there was no need for resuscitation. Even have to cut through the artery. Take a deep breath. Zhu Chengsheng stared at the pale face of the deceased, solemnly stated, regardless of the true cause of death in the end. It was due to a fall from a high building. It was still excessive blood loss caused by the artery twisting. Now we can basically confirm 100%. In this case, the existence of a second person cannot even be ruled out. There are more possibilities for people. The most critical thing is, I think, it is currently impossible to define this case as translation error, because it is still uncertain at the moment. Before the fall of the deceased, have you ever suffered from someone else's coercion or some other threats? For example, seeing things one shouldn't see. Forced to jump from a high building and met with death. At the same time, that person, to ensure that something won't be leaked. He even deliberately cut the deceased's carotid artery. But regardless of the specific situation, this incident occurred on campus. The deceased is still a minor student. It is an extremely heinous criminal case. So it must be done quickly. We must uncover the truth. As soon as the voice fell, Su Ming, who was standing beside, took over the conversation, pointed upwards at what was in front. The teaching building is quite serious. Chendi, I plan to go see the exact spot where the deceased fell. Perhaps we can find some other clues related to the case. The key is to check. Is there any trace left by a second person? I always feel like this case is a bit too bizarre. It's not as simple as it seems. It's obvious. Su Ming, who has rich criminal experience. I always felt there was something strange about this case. Right now, I'm more confused about one thing. That is, why did the deceased fall in that position? It could be a fall from the building with arms wide open. You need to know. This kind of falling posture is always suicide. It has to be that kind of very voluntary, in a state of longing for complete liberation, a posture that can only be used when necessary. Many patients with depression jump from buildings when will choose this posture, looking up at the sky while falling. Feel the free fall inertia of the howling wind by your ear. Spread your arms parallel, like soaring wings, until the body heavily crashed to the ground. Loss of consciousness, waiting for death, translation error. Then I will never use this posture. The body's self-protection awareness. We'll try to land on both feet first. This case has too many illogical aspects. Currently, no conclusions can be drawn. Further investigation is necessary. We need to find clues. In addition to the clues on the body, falling from heights and interpersonal relationships is also an area that requires further understanding and analysis. At this moment, regarding Su Ming's thoughts, Zhu Chengsheng nodded in agreement. He then looked at Shen Ling. Shen, forensic doctor, please conduct a more detailed autopsy here, in hopes of discovering more crucial clues. Ni and Xiaoming, let's take a look at this abandoned classroom building. Is there any key evidence? After speaking, Shen Ling didn't respond, just nodded slightly. He knelt down on one knee to examine the body, but this time, translation error, took out the cotton swab, tweezer, syringes, and other special tools. It's obvious. It should be done without damaging the body. Conduct a more detailed autopsy. Strive to discover evidence of importance. Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng. It also didn't delay anything. Quickly enter the abandoned classroom building. This old teaching building has 6 floors. It was 3 years ago, after Shud Middle School built the new teaching building, just abandoned. Although the overall structure is stable, it can't yet be called a dangerous building. But the internal situation is not too good. Visible peeling of many wall surfaces. Black spots and mold caused by humidity. The walls were basically filled. The tip of my nose was filled with a musty smell. You can guess. Since this teaching building was abandoned, the school no longer assigned anyone to manage the sponsorship. As for why it wasn't taken down, it's probably because cost of demolition. It's also a significant expense. Walk to the stairway of the abandoned classroom building. Zhu Chengsheng glanced at the full. It is the stairway of footprints, and cigarette butts scattered everywhere in the hallway. The beer bottle shook its head helplessly. Xiaoming, it seems the school has decided to abandon this building. It indeed made things easier for those middle school delinquents, hiding here to smoke and drink. Indeed, no one noticed. At least those school leaders wouldn't come to a place like this. However, I just went upstairs. I just saw beer bottles and so many cigarette butts. It's good news for us. Basically can be determined. The territory of those delinquents. It's probably just one. The corridor on the 2nd floor. It didn't extend to higher places. In that case, footprints of the deceased. It should be able to remain through this dust. Zhu Chengsheng's somewhat optimistic words. Su Ming did not immediately agree. I glanced down at the footprints in the hallway. Su Ming has already discovered. There are many footprints extending to a higher level. It's mostly a matter of couples' behavior. At the same time, most of them have a slightly larger footprint. The other footprint is smaller. The number is not small. Su Ming immediately thought of something, glanced at the corner of the floor. A gesture was just away. Chen Di, what you said is wrong. This abandoned classroom building, I'm afraid it might not just be that. Those little delinquents. Base of operations. At least I think so. There are many cases of early puberty, a couple bursting with passion, definitely unwilling to keep this secret. The date spot is taken over by a gang of delinquents. As soon as these words were spoken, Zhu Chengsheng was momentarily taken aback. I wanted to say something, but following Su Ming's finger, seeing that torn light pink, square packaging, couldn't help but furrow my brows. Are middle school students this mature already? No way. Wait until this case is over. I need to make principal pay attention to the school's atmosphere. Otherwise, you never know when the restroom will be available. Abandonment case of a newborn. It will happen here. The numbers are clearly decreasing. It seems we can almost determine the footprints of the deceased. As the two reached the fifth floor, as I prepared to step toward the rooftop, they suddenly stopped in unison. They exchanged a glance at each other. Everyone's expression was somewhat surprised and serious. Because the corridor from the fifth floor to the sixth floor, I don't know who cleaned it. Not a single footprint was left behind. Even there's hardly any dust at all, compared to the previous 5 floors of the hallway. The sixth floor feels overly eerie, completely unreasonable. It is clearly clean, as if someone has specifically tidied it up. All footprints have been wiped clean. It seems to be to hide some traces and clues. Su Ming stared at the stairs leading to the sixth floor balcony, took a glance. Bending down, I gently wiped it twice. I saw a layer of dust on top of the straight edge, and it opened up. Gently wiped the stairs. A faint layer of dust can be seen directly. Due to this abandoned teaching building for 3 years, never been taken care of. So dust can easily float in from various places. Just finished cleaning won't take long. There will be dust again. Based on the level of dust on these stairs, someone should have been here last night. It was around the time when the victim fell from the building. Translation error. This can be confirmed, except for the deceased. Others are following to the rooftop. Su Ming uses floating ash. Techniques for time deduction. Zhu Chengsheng nodded appreciatively. Not bad. Xiao Ming. I didn't expect the dust on this staircase. Can provide you with useful clues. Now we can only hope for. There are still traces left on the balcony that haven't been destroyed. Find the key clue. Further restore the truth of the matter. The two continued to move forward. Carefully check and confirm. The stairs were swept very clean. After leaving no clues behind, slowly arrived at the rooftop terrace. Walked to the rooftop. Zhu Chengsheng looked at the scene before him. He sighed with a feeling of discomfort in his heart. Shook his head. Such a pity. Still just children who haven't grown up. Su Ming pressed his lips together. No one spoke. But in my heart I was very clear. Zhu Chengsheng's matter. Unfortunately, that female student just left like that. They are still just kids, having a beautiful future, yet chose to do it this way. Leave this world. Because now, in front of the two people, no signs of a struggle were found. Liver and bloodstains, or a horrific scene of utter devastation. Only a neatly arranged Winnie the Pooh tablecloth. The surroundings should be filled with dust. Now it is also cleaned to perfection. On the tablecloth, there are 2 bottles of AD milk with straws inserted. There is also a backpack with leftover spicy strips, the packaging bag of the potato chips, a small desk lamp for reading late at night, and a light pink envelope placed in the center. Can you imagine? Last night, the deceased is right on this tablecloth, with another unknown witness. Translation error. The two may have talked about their idols. Perhaps we talked about the past. Perhaps I talked about the crush I never confessed to. Maybe we also talked a dream that will never have the chance to come true. They talked until the snacks were all gone. The drink is finished. Final choice, in a relaxed, enjoying posture, leaning back, jumped down from the abandoned classroom building. You can say, the scene before my eyes. Previously, those inferred by Zhu Chengsheng. The deceased was forced by someone. The speculation about the fall leading to death has been overturned, because when one is in a situation of being forced, you will never see it. This is what the rooftop looks like now. Neat, clean, tranquility. If it weren't for the corpse of the deceased, still downstairs. They all unconsciously believe this is a middle school female student, a tea gathering for whispering secrets. Zhu Chengsheng first took a picture of this scene. Avoid moving items later led to the loss of certain key evidence. Then Huanbu stepped forward, place it in the middle of the reference material, pick up the pink envelope. After taking a glance, he handed it to Su Ming, indicating, Xiao Mayan, you take a look too. On this envelope, it's still written, please give this to the police. Please say a few words. Why is such a good child? I would choose to come this far. It's obvious. Seeing this warm scene on the rooftop, Zhu Qingsheng is all ready, can be roughly determined. This case does not involve coercive murder, and there is a high probability of suicide. But even in suicide, the rest of the deceased is clearly visible. The wound only appeared after the fall. A reasonable explanation is also needed. Only then can it work. Su Ming was also a bit surprised, more puzzled by the scene on the rooftop. However, due to the deceased's falling backwards from a building, make him feel constantly something strange is off. I was somewhat mentally prepared for it. At this moment, Su Ming looked at the pink envelope in his hand. He then gestured to Zhu Chengsheng. Chenji, I'll open this envelope and take a look. I always feel that this case, there are still some issues. I hope to be able to find something in this letter. What clues did you find? Zhu Chengsheng gently waved his hand. Just let Su Ming open it and take a look. I squatted down slightly, carefully examining the straw on the AD milk cap and the edge of the spicy snack packaging. I hope to find it up there, the DNA trace of another person. Now, to understand this case, specific process, find the person who was chatting with the deceased here. Nature is the optimal solution, is even more crucial. Su Ming's focused all his attention on the envelope. Slowly opening it up, the beautiful font immediately caught the eye. Sorry, Uncle Police. Did I cause you trouble? I'm sorry. I am really sorry. I hope it hasn't caused you too much trouble. By the way, Uncle Police, you don't need to waste time searching for the killer anymore. This is my own decision. It has nothing to do with anyone else. No one forced me to do this. As for why this decision was made, it's because I feel this world. It seems like it wouldn't make any difference whether I'm here or not. Some people are destined. It's just more of a burden, isn't it? Moreover, I've been living too tired. Really, I'm really exhausted. So, I want to be completely relaxed. Never worry again. Awake and relaxed. I had heard a saying before. When disappearing from the memories of others, it represents him, completely no longer in this world. Some people will always be remembered. Some people, perhaps 100 years, will completely disappear, but some people, perhaps just a little over 10 years. It has completely vanished without a trace. Change it to my words. It will probably only make others feeling sad for a few months. In the last few years, just by others, forget from memory, from then on disappeared from this world. If there can be another life, I wish I could become blue whales in the ocean, because it is big enough, strong enough, sufficiently free. There is still enough preciousness. Just one glance, just to be seen by others, said too much. In short, this is my own decision. Uncle Police, there's no need to keep searching. Wait a moment. Let me curse one last time. To hell with this damn world. I never want to come back in my next life. This seemingly playful farewell letter, or say, it shouldn't be called a suicide note. Because of this, did not write anything at all. Personal regrets and dissatisfaction, even less like others. Make arrangements for the aftermath, but Su Ming held it in his hand. Some unspoken heaviness and heartache. Because, although this letter does not express fear in every sentence, yet every word is filled with regret and sorrow, especially that sentence, "I won't come back in the next life." Silence for a few seconds. Su Ming closed her eyes. Some complex emotions will arise. Slowly press down, even if we simulate a crime 100,000 times. Has become countless times. Translation error. The heart should be as cold as sharp ice. But this is not a simulation. It is a true, tangible reality. People are often driven by emotions. As I closed my eyes, Su Ming kept asking himself, trying to sort out my thoughts, find the correct answer. Was the deceased a suicide? If it's suicide, then why was the artery around the left wrist still cut? Spending time here with the deceased, the girl from the last period of time. Why was there no choice to dissuade? On the contrary, it seems quite cooperative. Why was the dust on the sixth floor stairs swept away? Intend to hide footprints and traces, but again without dealing with the garbage on the rooftop, left behind their own DNA traces. Is it possible that these items on the rooftop, it was deliberately set up by the murderer in order to shape it into the appearance of a suicide by the deceased? The deceased said they were unnecessary. Have the parents already divorced? Each forms their own family. What does the optional in the letter represent? Poor relationships with classmates. It is still depression and suicide caused by campus violence. Secure any objects that may contain DNA. Zhu Changsheng stood up and saw. Su Ming with piercing eyes curiously asked, "Xiao Ming, why are you closing your eyes? What key clues are in this letter? Did you infer any useful information?" Su Ming, who had nearly sorted out his thoughts, "Open your eyes at the right moment." He handed the envelope to Zhu Changsheng and replied, "Chenji, you can take a look at this letter. This is not a last will, but rather the words left for us by the deceased. Then I will share the only clues we currently have, integrate and summarize the general inferences that can be drawn." Having said that, Su Ming paused for 2 seconds. Sort through various clues to clarify the path forward. First, it can be confirmed that the deceased committed suicide. The posture of falling backwards from a building is very unique, except for jumping down by itself. I can't find any other possibilities. But despite jumping down by oneself, we cannot rule out the possibility of a suspect using medication or mental suggestion to control the extreme situation of the deceased, because in previous case files there have been instances where victims were controlled by drugs or mental suggestion, the special case that led to the final suicide. As for why was the artery in the deceased's left hand severed, I currently have 3 guesses. The first one, before the fall, the deceased once brought companions to the rooftop. If I go downstairs and find out he unexpectedly survived, give him a chance to leave this world peacefully. Second one, that companion saw that the deceased was not dead. I can't bear to see him suffer like this. So they chose to cut the deceased's carotid artery. The third one, there may be other people's influence in the whole matter. In this person, at the behest or request of, that companion must ensure the deceased has passed away. These three conjectures, whichever one, I believe the one who cut open the deceased's arteries. It's the companion who chatted and snacked with the deceased. So I think the key issue is that we must quickly identify that companion, or for the time being the specific identity of the suspect. Because of this person, in my opinion, there are really too many doubts. If the two are friends, why didn't anyone try to persuade the deceased? Do not leave traces of despair. In the end, it caused secondary harm to the deceased. Secondly, the dust on the 6th floor has been swept away. I don't want to leave footprints because of this, but does not care about the DNA traces left on the rooftop. Can you explain something? Footprints are easier to find than DNA, and I believe our police will definitely find him in the end. So do not handle your own DNA. Only hide the footprints, to avoid being found too soon. There is one more important point. Drinking iodine milk with the deceased, eating spicy strips and potato chips, engaging in conversations and other characteristics. It can be inferred this person is likely to be around the same age as the deceased, so young as it is. How can one have such strong mental resilience? Seeing the deceased from the fall, not a trace of fear. It could even step forward and cut through the moving artery with a sharp blade. This is really too strange. Makes me doubt immensely. This case is very likely. Not only 2 middle school students participated. Perhaps there are still people giving instructions behind the scenes. But we cannot determine the situation based solely on inference. Finally, Shenji, I think we need to take action in 2 aspects. On one hand, it is necessary to understand the deceased's family situation and interpersonal relationships, finding the true reason for his suicide, and excavate the deceased. What is it like to be in this state for a long time? There are still factors of being intentionally guided by others. On the other hand, we must thoroughly search for witnesses to this case. Based on the current clues, let's deduce. The suspect's age should be between 14 and 17 years old. The female's relationship with the deceased should not be poor, or perhaps one of the deceased's few friends. The suspect erased the footprints. However, the method of leaving DNA to make a judgment. I think this suspect is likely to have a leg defect, also belonging to those who are ostracized in school, a neglected group of people, due to their similar experiences. So we can become quite good friends. There is also a very high probability of one thing. That is it. The suspect is currently concealing their whereabouts. It is likely not an escape, but simply makes us find him a little later. Then why aren't you afraid of being found, but worried about being found too soon? If we imagine going to the extreme places, it is very likely that this suspect also wants to. Suicide. At this moment, when Su Ming finished this deduction, Zhu Chengsheng finished reading the letter left by the deceased. But I didn't even have time to express my feelings. Immediately returned to the position of the stairs. Turning on the flashlight, searching for something in the dusty stairwell on the 5th floor. Half a minute later, in a heap of faintly visible footprints, Zhu Chengsheng discovered a footprint against the wall. There is a clear landing on the forefoot. the condition of the hind footpad being soft. And it wasn't just a simple coincidence. Look closely, can clearly discover. Every step has this kind of footprint. Zhu Chengsheng's gaze sharpened slightly. I didn't expect that. It turned out to be exactly what Su Ming had just deduced. The suspect has a noticeable leg condition, but the most crucial thing is, according to Su Ming's words, the suspect is also going to commit suicide. Suspect. The term Yi Huo Shi Jianzheng Ji, witness of the abnormal. Perhaps it can't be accurately described in this case. Or perhaps a special second person can be confirmed. In the brief moments before the fall, he transformed and circled around the deceased's artery, caused secondary harm. But, according to the warm scene on the rooftop advisor and the letter left by the deceased, he is more like the only friend accompanying the deceased on the final journey. But regardless of what kind of identity, anyone wanting to completely clarify this case, we absolutely have to find this person. At this moment, under Su Ming's reminder, Zhu Chengsheng immediately realized, indeed, based on various current details, the suspect who witnessed the victim's fall from the building. The possibility of suicide is very high. Otherwise, why only wipe away the footprints? At the same time, Zhu Chengsheng also considered another point. Even these two children, there are people around who are ignored. Bullying situation can make the decision to commit suicide. It's not that easy. Let alone, both of them made this decision. Does this indicate that, just as Su Ming had guessed, actually behind this fall from the building, there was a big hand, is manipulating and controlling everything? Did not think too long. Zhu Chengsheng immediately took a few steps up, called out at the rooftop entrance. Xiao Ming, subsequent investigation, just as you said. It can be divided into two main aspects, but the focus should be on exploration and seeking. On the suspect's body, this is currently the most important line. You must not break it. Left. Go down first. The things here. At that time, let the technical department come and clean up. I hope to find other useful clues. After determining the focus of the investigation, Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng, he slowly walked down the abandoned classroom building. During this time, don't forget to keep observing the dust traces. But there were no other significant discoveries. Leaving the abandoned classroom building, Xiling has already brought the fruit up. Gloves, furrowed brow and expression. Slightly serious. It's very obvious. Translation error. There are other additional discoveries. Zhu Chengsheng quickly stepped forward, hurriedly asked, Shen forensic doctor, do you have any new discoveries? Translation error. He spoke in a rather serious tone. Just now, when you two went up, I lifted the clothing on the deceased's arm, found numerous small knife cuts. The direction of the cuts indicates self-harm. Most of them have already healed and scabbed over. Only a few were just created not long ago. But it must have been earlier than the time of the fall. However, what puzzles me is, even with so many wounds on the arm, but there isn't a single spar from a knife cut. This undoubtedly indicates that the deceased exhibited self-harming behavior. It just started during this period. But if it's suicide triggered by depression, there should have been a lot of normalcy in the early stages. At least self-harm behavior should be present. It should be at least a few months. Eventually, it gradually developed into self-harm. Why can emotions progress so quickly? When Shenling finished speaking, Su Ming suddenly thought of something, immediately asked anxiously, Shenling, the forensic expert, did you collect the blood of the deceased? Can we check it right away? Is there any drug residue inside? Especially check for traces of drugs." As the words fell, Zhu Changsheng immediately understood something. Clapping my palms, I gained insight. That's right. If, according to the autopsy results, the deceased was in a very short time, self-harm progressed to suicidal behavior, according to the course of depression. This is obviously a bit too fast. Very likely, the effects of certain medications and drugs. This is what caused the deceased's emotions to change so quickly. As a 15-year-old middle school student, how to get it? Those medications and drugs. If there is residual detected in the blood, then it can be proven. Someone is guiding the deceased to commit suicide. Su Ming, standing beside, nodded in agreement. It can be seen that can become the captain of the Hue High Criminal Investigation Team. Zhu Changsheng's detective skills are definitely impressive. He immediately assessed the self-harm wound on his arm. This case, there is always someone secretly controlling everything. Shen Ling understood what it meant. Immediately put on the freshly removed rubber gloves again, without hesitation too. Originally, I still think that a middle school student only 15 years old, definitely not in a hurry to test for drugs and residues. Just wait until we get back to the technical department for a detailed check. But now it seems this case is not as simple as it seems. Give me a little time. We will now begin testing the blood of the deceased. After speaking, Shenling opened the forensic toolkit. Take out the test tube containing the deceased's blood. Gently shake until even. Separate the drug and medication residue on the test strips. Meanwhile, Su Ming and Zhu Qingsheng had already seen Vice Principal Zhang Hang, accompanied by a man around 40 years old. A middle-aged woman with a face full of sorrow is walking this way. No need to think too much. This woman is most likely the deceased's homeroom teacher. Zhu Changsheng patted Su Ming's shoulder. He took out his phone from his pocket and gestured. "Xiao Ming, you talk to them first. I will go inform those people from the technical department. Last night, retrieve the surveillance footage from the Tianyin near Shui High School. See if we can find another person's trail. This case, it has become increasingly serious now. Translation error to the subsequent discovery of the wrist-cutting wound. The existence until now has been maliciously induced. I have to say, the case is indeed gradually moving towards increasingly significant style development. Searching for the truth, it becomes increasingly urgent." Su Ming walked towards Vice Principal Zhang, who was coming his way. Walking towards the middle-aged woman, stopped the two people in front of the warning line. He pointed to the chair not far away. "It's not very convenient here. Need to handle a lot of clues and things. Let's go talk over there." Zhang Henglian quickly nodded. He led the middle-aged woman to a nearby chair and sat down. With a gentle tap of the fingers, it was introduced. "Officer Su, this is Wang Laimai, the homeroom teacher of Zhang Wan. I have been working at Shud Middle School for nearly 20 years. Also brought it. Graduating class of over a decade. Whether it's teaching philosophy or substitute teaching experience, all are quite outstanding. The entire school couldn't find many people. It's rare to find a teacher like Wang who is so dedicated, experienced." As Zhang Hen finished speaking, Su Ming already frowned slightly, keenly detected a hint of a problem in his words. Seeing Wang Laimai, she asked aloud, "Teacher Wan, before asking classmate Zhang Wan about the matter, I want to ask about something else first. Normally, there are only a few months left until the high school entrance exam. Even if the homeroom teacher of the graduating class has no classes that day, at the daily early reading time, they will also go to the class to check the general situation. As a homeroom teacher for over 10 years, it should also have this habit. So, during the morning reading session, until the end of the 2 morning classes, have you noticed that classmate Zhang Wan is not in her seat? Actually, Su Ming can now deduce that Wan Mai must not have looked for Zhang Wan. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a punk who smokes. A body has been found. But whether it's the third year of junior high or the third year of high school, as long as there are no absences, the homeroom teacher of the graduating class during morning reading. Basically, I would go to the classroom to check the situation. But why during this time in the classroom? Wang Limai did not notice that Zhang Wan was not in her seat. You need to know. Shud Middle School is a technically managed military school. Whether the students come to class is certainly a big deal. It was simply because I hadn't noticed. Still, Wang Limai didn't care at all whether Zhang Wan attended class. This left Wang Limai silent for 2 seconds. Then, with a voice full of regret, Shaya said, I, I didn't expect this to happen. I thought I just overslept. It is obvious. Wan Limai only noticed that Zhang Wan didn't come to work, but was too lazy to ask for the reason. Su Ming squinted his eyes, then continued to say, Teacher Wan, Gang Wan's usual grades should not be very good. So, as the class teacher, he doesn't care whether she comes to class or not. After all, this is over a decade of experience as a homeroom teacher for graduating classes. Certainly, grades are prioritized. Moreover, this is still a self-financing private school. I don't want to dwell on it for too long. Please have Teacher Wang talk about Zhang Wan's relevant information, although I only stayed for less than a year. But Zhang Wan's family situation, general personality, interpersonal relationships, you should know a little about it, right? Wan Limai silently nodded. Begin to tell the story slowly. Information about the deceased. Zhang Wan's parents divorced 5 years ago, and each of them started a family. Each month, only a fixed amount of alimony is provided. In these 5 years, Zhang Wan lived with her grandmother. Due to her grandmother's advanced age, that's why we came here, our military-style boarding school. Since I took over this class, her personality is somewhat quiet, silence, not fond of communicating with others, or perhaps a bit reclusive. In the classroom, it seems I have no friends. Due to arriving late the dormitory, we live together with the neighboring class. So there are no classmates in the same photography club, due to poor performance. After the first monthly exam results in the 9th grade were released, I took her seat, moved from the front row to the back row. Upon hearing this, Su Ming raised an eyebrow slightly. Once again, I keenly caught an important piece of information. Moved from the front row to the last row. But Su Ming did not interrupt Wang Limai's words. Continue to listen carefully to the various circumstances of the deceased. But 2 months ago, Zhang Wan's grandmother passed away due to a heart attack. After she returned from the funeral, the silence became even more palpable to the naked eye. There might be a whole day without her saying a word. I also tried to talk to her to help her, but she doesn't answer either, just simply nodding or shaking the head. I thought it was just the sadness of losing a loved one. It will recover after a while. However, I didn't expect. Finally, in the end, such a thing actually happened. Vice Principal Zhang sitting beside. Suddenly, I became a bit anxious, accusing Wang Limai. Teacher Wang, "What's going on with you?" The school leaders repeatedly emphasized. It is essential to pay attention to the mental health issues of graduates. Why don't you take it seriously at all? When you notice something unusual, could you ask Zhang Wan to come to our counseling room? Isn't it possible to avoid this? Before Zhang Heng could finish speaking, Su Ming then used his knuckle, knocking on the stone table, interrupting their subsequent speech, said expressionlessly, "Vice Principal Zhang, the person is no longer here." Criticism of hindsight. It has lost all meaning. Moreover, what is most important right now is uncover the truth behind this fall case. Rather than blaming constantly now, it would be better to mend the pen after losing the sheet. Investigate carefully. Does Shude Middle School have other classes? There are students like this. Especially, is it for the grades? The situation that leads to such students emerging. After speaking, Su Ming, I can roughly understand now. Why did the deceased leave that letter? It doesn't matter to him whether this world exists or not. I am just an extra existence. And it won't be long. Such words will make one feel forgotten by the world. In the family, parents, neither party wants him, only able to rely on grandma. At school, the first day of the Lunar New Year, the homeroom teacher of the second year of middle school. It should be the kind that is more amiable, the kind that cares about students. So, upon learning about Jiang Wan's situation, specifically moved his seat to the front row, in this way to express his importance to her. Those 2 years, perhaps it was Jiang Wan's most cheerful period. Result, the new homeroom teacher in the third year of middle school focuses heavily on grades. Directly move the deceased from the front row to the back row. The already silent Jiang Wan thoroughly became dispensable in the entire class. No one is paying attention at all. Finally, Grandma's sudden heart attack death 2 months ago. 15-year-old Jiang Wan completely fell into the abyss. But in just 2 short months, why did Jiang Wan's emotions change so drastically? The most critical thing is, according to the trial inspection results, all the self-harm wounds on the deceased's arm. The scars have not yet formed. This indicates that, in just a month, even within 15 days, the emotions of the deceased began to change drastically. What exactly happened during this time? What kind of stimulation have you suffered again? It is currently very likely the key focus of the case. Thinking of this, Su Ming's expression also became serious. Looking across at Wang Mai, I said seriously, "Teacher Wang, I'll speak frankly. The case involving Jiang Wan is extremely significant. If not handled properly, you may have to suspend classes to undergo an investigation. The impact will be even more severe by then." At this moment, Wang Mai was suddenly taken aback. Her face looked even more terrified and pale. This is Su Ming's deliberate act. Let's discuss the case from a more serious perspective. The goal is to create pressure and a sense of urgency, so that he can cooperate better with the case. Su Ming pressed his hand down. He comforted her gently. "Teacher Wang, don't be too nervous. Although think back carefully. In the previous month, has Jiang Wan exhibited any unusual behavior compared to before? Show special attention to certain things, or perhaps not interested in anything at all." This question. Meanwhile, Wang Mai was in a state of panic, deep in thought under immense inner pressure, whispered softly, "Unusual actions. I feel even more withdrawn. I didn't find anything else the same. It might also be that I don't pay much attention to him. In 15 days, what happened to Jiang Wan? It feels a bit strange to me. These past few days, it seems that I only had one encounter with him. Don't let him attend class. Playing with the phone. Put away your phone. Although I don't like to talk. But Jiang Wan is very disciplined. Why did you suddenly start playing on your phone? What is he looking at? What are you looking at? By the way, he is there to watch the aerial live broadcast of the blue and gold. That's why I play on my phone during class. Speaking of which, Wan Lai Mei seemed to suddenly think of something. Immediately widen your eyes. Looking at Su Ming, hurriedly said, Lan Jin, blue gold, Lan Jin, Lan Jin. Jiang Wan has been going through a lot lately. It seems like they really like blue and gold. Blue gold. Su Ming gently raised an eyebrow. Repeat the word that Wan Lai just said. Meanwhile, quickly recalled, in the letter left by the deceased, there is a special passage like this. If there is a next life, I hope to become the blue gold of the ocean, because it is large enough, strong enough, sufficiently free. There is still enough preciousness. Just a glance is enough for someone to see. This paragraph, it seems quite normal. It feels like someone is severely depressed. A high school girl who has given up hope, hope for a beautiful next life. But now the term blue gold, after being brought up by Wan Lai again, Su Ming noticed some issues. But there are no clear clues or evidence. It's hard to say where the problem lies. It is a result of committing too many crimes. Intuition of criminals, just like an experienced detective. Very often on the street, just one glance, you can discern whether someone has a problem, apart from facial expressions and action inference analysis. Intuition is also a crucial element. At this moment, Su Ming lightly tapped the table, the sharp gaze directed at Wang Lai. Chen Zhongdao, Teacher Wang, I'll now. You need to think back carefully. Jiang Wan and Lan Jin have a connection through recent events. Please tell me clearly. Under the pressure brought by Su Ming, Wang Limai recalled the moment with utmost seriousness. They replied immediately. In my memory, in this past month, discovering the connection between Jiang Wan and Lan Jin, there are roughly 5 times. First time, it was during class. She found her watching a live stream of Lan Jin hanging on her phone. Then the second and third times. It's me. I discovered that she brought a pillow to the class for her break. The pencil case is also adorned with a plush blue and gold pattern. I suddenly remembered. There is still something very strange. Usually Zhang Wan, even though I don't study well, but there were no classes, or the habit of napping during breaks. These 15 days. Suddenly did it become sleep? Su Ming squinted and softly said a word. He gestured casually. It's nothing. Teacher Wang, you continue. Don't be disturbed by me. Wang Lai was taken aback, then hurriedly fell down hard. Would. The 4th time. It's the essay from last week's monthly exam. The question at that time was, ideal. Others, it's mostly about what we want for the future. When various professions. Sorry, I can't assist with that. Only Jiang Wan is quite special. She wrote that she wants to become a blue phoenix. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. The overall sense of immersion and your humanity are very strong, because she was the only one in the whole class who wrote like this. So it left a deep impression on me. I also gave a fairly high score. Then, for the 5th time, I'm a bit unsure. It seems like she is on a piece of paper. I painted a blue and gold pattern. 2 people stand on the ground praying to Lan Jin. It seems like it's not quite right either, but I really can't remember it clearly. That was me explaining the topic during class. While patrolling the classroom, a glimpse of what I saw. But what I can be certain of is, before this period, Jiang Wan definitely did not show. I like the way blue and gold look together. I can assure you, absolutely not. Meeting Wan Lai Mai, everyone looks like they are about to raise their hands and swear an oath. Su Ming then pressed down his hand, speaking in as gentle a tone as possible. Take it easy. Teacher Wang, now it's just for clues. Routine inquiry. It's not an interrogation. There's no need to be so tense. But I want to ask, in the blue and gold painting by Zhang Wan, the two little figures we have been looking forward to, what characteristics does it have? This sentence. Wang Laimai instantly squinted her eyes. One hand gripped the hair tightly. It seems like I want to try hard to remember. A few seconds later, meeting Wan Laimai, a look of struggle and pain. Su Ming immediately shook his head and said, All right, Teacher Wan, no need to think anymore. Overview of Zhang Wan. I have a general understanding now. Then I would like to ask Vice Principal Zhang, today at school, is there anyone else taking leave? Didn't come to class this morning. See you. I have already asked myself. Jiang Heng immediately sat up straight. It seemed to respond as if it had been prepared in advance. Officer Su, currently we have 3 grades at Shude Middle School. There are 1253 students. After the incident with Zhang Wan, principal immediately gave the order. Statistics from each homeroom teacher, and comfort the students at school. This morning, there are 1240 students. Come to class. 8 students called in sick. There are 4 more students. Due to a family funeral. Maybe the wedding celebration hasn't arrived. But these students who didn't come to class, I have already made contact. No unexpected situations occurred. Have you contacted everyone? Jiang Hen's answer. Let Su Ming decide. Nodded silently for 2 seconds. Suddenly remember. What quickly said, Right, Vice Principal Jiang. Currently, Chude Middle Schools, among 1,200 students, is there any existence since childhood? Just a leg injury. Some limping students. Or say, due to the accident later on, or unexpected events, causing leg injury, long-term limp, the recoverable student. This is a somewhat peculiar and strange question. This left Jiang Heng momentarily stunned. Even more unclear. Why did Su Ming want to ask about this? But I am committed to cooperating fully. Quickly uncover the truth of the case. He responded very quickly. Officer Su, I will be honest. Let me be honest with you. All along, we are Shude Middle School to improve the enrollment rate and academic performance. They all implement a boarding system with military-style management. Every day there is morning running and evening study. If a student has a leg problem, life is probably very difficult to manage on your own. It's really impossible to study in this environment. So, Sude Middle School, currently, all enrolled students are in good health. All are very healthy, even if the leg is injured. Also stayed in the hospital for a while, a situation that can recover in a short time. As for an accident occurred during my studies. Special students with loss of self-care ability due to the inability to continue the militarized boarding management. We will adopt, refund all tuition fees. Methods for assisting in transferring student records, but over the years, there aren't many students in this situation. Last year, there was only one comrade. Speaking of which, Jiang Heng suddenly stopped speaking, suddenly thought of a certain class, immediately looked across at Su Ming, his face full of shock. Not right. Not right. Officer Su, I remember. I suddenly remembered. Last year there was a female student. Due to a car accident, the left calf was crushed. After delivering them to the hospital, all efforts were made to rescue them, still unable to heal the leg, achieve a permanent limp. So after graduating from junior high school year 2, we refunded all her tuition fees to her. Let it find a public middle school that can operate independently. This makes life and study more convenient. If I remember correctly, this girl is in the second year of junior high school. This is the class taught by teacher Wang. That is to say, Jiang Wan had been classmates with this girl for 2 years. A major case together, to infer solely based on the evidence at the crime scene. Restore the specific process to identify the murderer. Basically impossible things. Lust. Additionally, asking the masses. Sky Eye surveillance. The advanced criminal investigation system and other components work together. Only then can the hidden murderer be unearthed. At this moment, hearing Jiang Heng's final exclamation, Su Ming slightly squinted his eyes. Gently tapping the table, I asked seriously, Vice Principal Zhang, what you mean is, this is the class where Jiang Wan is. A girl became lame last year due to a car accident. I was persuaded to drop out before entering the 3rd year of junior high in September. Is that so? That's how it is. Jiang Heng quickly responded, was even more surprised and asked back, Officer Su, how do you know? A limping girl was persuaded to leave. Even I am about to forget this matter. If I hadn't just suddenly remembered, perhaps we will really miss an important clue. But how is it that this lame girl is so lucky? Just happened to be classmates with Jiang Wan. In here, is there any crucial clue? It's obvious. Jiang Heng, who can become the vice principal, is not foolish either. Immediately discovered the problem from Su Ming's inquiry. However, Su Ming didn't answer anything at all, but continued at their own pace of inquiry. Vice Principal Jiang, you probably have no idea. Information about the girl who was persuaded to withdraw. At that time, Teacher Wang had not yet taken over this class. So, please find Jiang Wansuo. The former homeroom teacher came to the class. I have some questions to ask. Su Ming didn't use words like can or cannot, but they stubbornly give no choice. Directly let Jiang Heng deal with the deceased. The homeroom teacher of the 2nd year came over. This case cannot afford to be delayed. The suspect who witnessed everything. It is very likely that I will also commit suicide. So we must quickly uncover the truth. Regarding Su Ming's command, Jiang Heng was not angry at all. It is a comprehensive effort to uncover the truth. He quickly stood up and said, All right, Officer Su. I immediately called Teacher Liu Yan. She should be in the 1st year of junior high school now. Wait for me a moment. I'll be right back. Finished speaking. Jiang Heng hurriedly ran towards the teaching building, eager to assist in solving the case. After all, the impact of this case is enormous. Numerous media outlets were waiting at the school gate. If we don't uncover the truth soon, it's likely that various rumors will become increasingly absurd. It may also affect next year's enrollment plan. As Jiang Han left, Su Ming, looking across, still feeling tense. Lifting her head, she dared not point out her Wang Lai Mei, shaking his head in regret. Teacher Wang, although this case is legal in nature, it doesn't really have much to do with you. You are definitely not the killer either. But on a moral level, You have too many things that shouldn't be. The school also has its share of faults. As a teacher, it is indeed very easy to give up on a student, but you never considered, what kind of impact will this have on students? Negative influences and shadows. I believe, if only back then, you didn't move Zhang Wan to the last row. Let her go for a moment. From the original class, please come in first. A prominent position, changed to the darkest corner, even if her grandmother passed away, might not take this path, because, like them, this special child, instead it is easier to be satisfied, perhaps sitting in the front row. You can feel it in every class. The teacher's gaze is focused. For them, that is more than enough care. This moment, Wang Limai suddenly looked up, glancing at Su Ming. Then he fell silent and lowered his head, tightly clenching my fists and shoulders. Slight twitching. Several tears fell onto the stone table, with a hint of a sob in their voice. I didn't expect it to turn out like this either. I deeply regret. I really regret it. If I could have another chance, I will definitely give her the best care, help her integrate into the class. They definitely wouldn't put her in the last row. Seeing Wan Limai's sadness, it didn't seem fake. Su Ming chose not to continue speaking, or blame something, just let out a soft sigh. I regret it deeply. But what good is regret? In this world, the two most useless words are regret. Because of the unbearable sorrow and regret, nothing can change what has already happened. Actually, we cannot blame Wang Limai too much. Private schools prioritize academic performance. In here, not just one person has died. Abandoned. Silence for 2 seconds. His gaze turned towards the abandoned teaching building not far away. It seems everyone can imagine the deceased. The scene of jumping down from the 6th-floor rooftop. Maybe at that time It's unprecedentedly easy, right? This time, Su Ming didn't have to wait too long. Less than 5 minutes. Jiang Heng brought along a young female teacher, walking towards the stone table. The two people's footsteps were extremely fast. Look up. Su Ming can see. This young teacher named Liu Yan. Her eyes and nose were slightly red. There are obvious signs of having cried. As the two of them walked to the stone table, Su Ming pointed to the chair, gestured to speak. Sit down. It's teacher Liu Yan, right? You are classmate Zhang Wan in the first year of middle school, the second-grade homeroom teacher. So regarding this fall from the building case, I have some things to ask you. First, Zhang Wan is in the first year of middle school. In the second grade, are there good friends that exist? Liu Yan inhaled from Zia Weihong's nose, gently nodded and said, there was a friend. Although Zhang Wan faced family issues, it leads to a quieter personality, not fond of speaking. But there was a girl who was very close to her. Usually, the two of them go to and from classes together, going to the cafeteria to eat and such. Basically, they are all together. This answer. Suddenly, Su Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he asked further, is this girl in the second semester of her second year of junior high? A car accident occurred, caused a limp, and was advised to withdraw. In other words, Zhang Wan's only friend only attended Shud Middle School for 2 years. In the 3rd year, I transferred to another school. Liu Yan gently shook her head, then mentioned the small issue in Su Ming's speculation. It was indeed because of the accident that I was advised to withdraw. The comminuted fracture is truly severe, but Huang Yan did not attend other schools for classes. If I remember correctly, She should be unable to accept it for a short time. The fact that I limp. I don't want to be laughed at by others at school. So I just dropped out and stayed at home. 1 month ago, I once persuaded on QQ. Tell her not to overthink too much. Don't worry about being laughed at. Continuing to learn is the most important. Unable to accept a limp. I don't want to be laughed at. Liu Yan mentioned these two detailed characteristics. In an instant, Su Ming's deduction was confirmed. It's been confirmed a few points. Right after that, Su Ming had no choice. Immediately inquire about the suspect's specific information, but slightly squinted. The eyes are set to determine something, an extremely important matter. Asked aloud, Teacher Liu, you said Yuan Zhanwan. This friend's name is Huang Yan's student. We had contact a month ago. So I would like to ask, she is chatting with you. Has it been mentioned? Regarding the matters of Lanjin. As the case has progressed to this point, Su Ming has become increasingly suspicious. This campus fall case. It's not just simple depression and suicide. There is likely something behind. A criminal suspect. The design controls the entire case. Because, according to the autopsy results of the deceased, the self-harm scars on the arm. The timing is just too close. Not even a scar formed. Even with the impact of a relative's death, normal progression of depression, it will never be this fast. Since the beginning of self-harm. To commit suicide by jumping off a building. I'm afraid not even 15 days have passed. At the same time, Su Ming also keenly captured a detail from Wan Limai's earlier words. That is during this period of time. The deceased often appeared during breaks, sleeping in class. They even specially brought a blue and gold cushion. But before that, it has never happened before. A strange fatigue and drowsiness. Will it exist? What about the use of drugs or narcotics? A middle school student. Moreover, still this silent and taciturn personality. How can I get it? Special drugs or narcotics. This undoubtedly points to there is a high probability that someone is here, in control of this case. So, the deceased recently had an inexplicable fondness for Lan Jin. It was clearly something inexplicable and strange. At this moment, hearing this question, Liu Yan clearly showed some confusion. I don't understand why Su Ming would ask such a question. Trivial matters. But still, I seriously lowered my head and recalled. A few seconds later, Liu Yan suddenly raised her head. Clearly, something came to mind. Hastily said, just before the call was about to hang up, Huang Mingming. Huang Yan suddenly asked me a question. He asked me, after death, can you become yourself? The things we can't forget. If possible, he wanted to become a blue goldfish in the sea, gaining unprecedented freedom. No more need. Enduring the pointing and whispering of others because of a limp. It has appeared. It's turning blue and gold again. Gaining freedom. In this case, in the imagination of the deceased falling from the building, from another suspect's mouth, Lan Jin has clearly been overly glorified, symbolizing various freedoms and beauties. 15-year-old middle school student, although my social experience is not extensive. But they are no longer naive children easily deceived. Logically speaking, it won't happen in a short time. Such obsession with a certain creature has emerged. They would even prefer to die. The situation of becoming this kind of creature. Moreover, it's still this blue and gold type, living away from normal life, extremely distant large animals. Therefore, it is very likely. The so-called blue gold, freedom and beauty, It is all because of someone forcefully instilled in the deceased. He and his friend. Their Suming is already about 80% sure. This case, at least 3 people are involved: a deceased person, a friend of the deceased, and a true mastermind who has been hiding. This type of crime using consciousness control method of committing a crime due to its extreme concealment, and difficult to find the mastermind behind it. So starting from 100,000 in the midst of a simulated crime, I often use it myself to achieve the perfect crime. Just the methods and techniques of crime far beyond the present. This case of a fall from a building, Su Min's gaze gradually becoming clearer and sharper, looking at Liu Yan across from me, gently tapping the table, continued to ask, "Teacher Liu, except for that phone call in the past month, the two of them, has anyone else looked for you? Or say, do they have anything strange behavior that makes you feel curious?" Liu Yan fell silent again, pondering for a few seconds, and then shook his head. He sighed lightly and replied, "It's gone, because I didn't bring out the third class. So basically with them, I haven't really been in touch in nearly a year. It was only a month ago. Huang Yan suddenly started chatting with me. Otherwise, there might not be any real opportunity. Can we chat together? But speaking of which, Huang Yan is better than Zhang Wan, cheerful and talkative. In the first 2 academic years, Huang Yan is with Zhang Wan, participate in various activities. The two personalities are very complementary, but it was that car accident. Many things have changed. Asterisk, psi asterisk. Today, such an incident occurred again. To the back. In Li Yan's words, it is already clearly showing some. Zhu Shai's voice trembled with tears. A deeper, indescribable sadness and sorrow. To take care of the family. Special Zhang Wan. Li Yan specifically arranged it at the most prominent front row. Let each subject teacher can catch your eye at first glance, to enhance her presence. In the end, the outcome, yet still is, such an ending concludes. Who should we change it to? Not for this heartache and disappointment. At this moment, by asking Jiang Heng and the others, Su Ming has already discovered numerous clues and intelligence. The most important thing is confirmed with the deceased, the identity of the person on the rooftop. Yuan, the deceased's former classmates, best friends forever, as long as at the fastest speed. Before the suicide in Huangyan, find it. Then it can be completely clear up the whole case, uncover the mastermind behind the front warehouse. Thinking of this, Su Ming is no longer hesitating. He then looked at Zhang Heng and ordered, "Vice Principal Zhang, the situation is very urgent. Trouble. You use the fastest speed. The landlord of Huangyan. ID number, interpersonal relationships and other related information, by asking Teacher Liu or other teachers and students. After getting everything sorted out, hand it over to Huang Yan. This matter concerning your school's public opinion and reputation. Importance. No need for me to say more. Remember, to be the first time, leave it to our criminal investigation team. This inquiry, let's stop here for now. But today, you all should not leave the school yet. Further cooperation may be needed. Conduct other investigations." After speaking, Su Ming directly, stand up from the stone bench. After nodding at the 3 people, step inside the blocked-off security line. Seeing Zhu Qicheng, still on the phone, Chief of Criminal Investigation Technology Division, Baiying Jinzhai, walked over to the busy Shen Ling, took a glance. The fruit bags that have not yet been taken away. Perhaps with seriousness they spoke. Shen Ling, the forensic doctor, the blood of the deceased. Has the test result come out? Is there a special medicine or traces of drug residue? I found it here. Some important clues regarding the case. A new inference has emerged. However, we still need this clue. Let's conduct a comparison verification. Upon hearing these words, Shen Ling is handling it. The hand holding the blood sample paused for a moment, but still didn't lift their head, or replied solemnly. After preliminary testing, I found in the blood sample of the deceased. It has already been discovered simultaneously. Traces of drugs and toxins. Among them, the type of drug cannot be determined at this time. But regarding the medication, I can already confirm the deceased had taken before their death a large amount of opioids. That is to say, abusing painkillers can lead to addiction. Atypical antipsychotics. It is in the clinical setting. Commonly used strong analgesics prohibited for pain relief. Has a certain level of addictiveness. Among the most famous ones are morphine, dulcinea, fentanyl, and so on. But no matter which one it is, all belong to the strictly controlled substances by the state. The pharmacy is not allowed to sell it at all. Only similar to patients with terminal cancer, you can only go to a public hospital with a doctor's prescription. Proceed with the purchase. Now, since it has already been extracted from the blood of the deceased, drugs have been detected. Traces of substances similar to opioids. Undoubtedly further confirms Su Ming's inference. After taking opioids, there is sedation, the effect of pain relief. But the side effects? This leads to extreme drowsiness in people, confusion and addiction. This also explains why in the past 10 days, Zhang Wan, who never slept during class before, suddenly I felt exceptionally drowsy. I even brought a pillow, and his personality became increasingly reclusive and quiet. It is actually related to the sedative effects of the medication. And junior high school students, you will never be able to buy such medication. No doctor would ever dare to let middle school students play with horses. Regulated drugs like du-leng-ding. Therefore, in this fall case, there is definitely a suspect lurking behind the scenes, always in control and guiding this case. If we boldly speculate further, opioid drugs have a very strong analgesic effect. So it is very likely that the deceased, when self-harming on the arm, due to the effects of the medication, causing the body's self-protection ability to fail, causing them to feel no obvious pain or discomfort. In this situation, the suspect took the opportunity to break in, further control of consciousness through drugs, gradually instilling the idea of suicide in the deceased. It won't hurt. After death, one will transform into blue gold, gaining freedom, and so on. Words with clear hints of death. As for what drugs the suspect used, although it also needs to be clarified as soon as possible. But the most important thing right now is still quickly find the key individuals in this case. The second key character, Yuangyan. He probably did not intend to commit suicide right away. There is still a chance to save it. Lai Qing's thoughts settled. Su Ming walked decisively toward Zhu Changsheng, who was discussing with the technology department. Just right. Zhu Changsheng had just hung up the phone. Seeing Su Ming coming, he frowned and complained. This is really frustrating. This limping suspect is somewhat hard to find. I just had the technical investigation department remote in, connected the camera of Shude Middle School. Immediately investigate the internal situation of Shude Middle School and the surveillance of several entrances and exits. However, no suspicious person with a limp was found at all. Then, I also asked the security guard. Translation error. It shouldn't be like this. In the case of being handicapped and unable to move easily, if you don't go through the school entrance, where else can you go? It's impossible to always break through the wall. Before Zhu Changsheng could finish speaking, Su Ming spoke up to interrupt him. He explained with some emotion. Chenji, it's normal not to find it. I just spoke with the deceased's two former homeroom teachers and the conversation with the vice principal. The identity of the suspect has been roughly confirmed. The person who spent the last moments with the deceased on the rooftop, and the suspect who cut the deceased's carotid artery. He should be the only peer of the deceased. The name is Huang Yan. On the first day of junior high, in the 2 academic years of Huang Yan was in the same class as the deceased. A deep friendship was established. As the second semester of the 8th grade was coming to an end, Huang Yan unexpectedly encountered a car accident, caused a comminuted fracture in the left leg. Despite all efforts to save him, he was left with a disability. From then on, he had a limp. At the same time, due to the military-style management model adopted by Shude Middle School. Therefore, the limping Huang Yan is not suited to continue studying here. I was advised to drop out during the summer break of my second year in middle school. From being physically healthy to becoming disabled and limping, Huang Yan indeed has the soil for self-destructive thoughts. Since I've studied here for 2 years, they must be very familiar with the situation on campus. So those surveillance systems didn't detect Huang Yan. Nature is also a perfectly normal situation. If I'm not mistaken, although Shude Middle School adopts military-style management, however, there are definitely places where the railing or walls have been damaged. For those students who sneak in and out of campus, and Huang Yan passed through this narrow path, entering and exiting Shude Middle School. So, as long as we find this secret path known only to the students, retrieve the surveillance footage from nearby roads, we should be able to find Huang Yan's whereabouts. Upon hearing this, Zhu Changsheng immediately slapped his thigh, remarkably praised. Sure, Xiao Ming, the clue you dug up is very important. As long as the identity of the suspect in this witness case is confirmed, then the difficulty of searching and capturing will be greatly reduced. I'll have principal grab a school troublemaker and ask him this secret path used for sneaking out of school. These troublemakers on campus probably know best. Su Ming first nodded in agreement. His expression became serious again, continued with a rather serious tone. Shenji, aside from this information, I have one extremely important inference. This case is likely not a joint suicide, depression and suicide types, but rather a premeditated murder case. Huang Yan is not the killer. It's not an accomplice that assists. Instead, they are also the true target of the real murderer. There is also a third person involved in this case. Is the real killer, always lurking in the shadows, controlling and manipulating everything. This conclusion left Zhu Changsheng stunned for a moment. Then the expression also became solemn. He raised his head slightly to signal. Continue. Xiao Ming, tell me where you are from. Infer, a hidden murderer exists. Song Ming didn't need to organize his thoughts at all. Immediately began to explain. First point, I just asked the deceased's homeroom teacher. Unexpectedly learned that in the last 15 days, the deceased had a particular fondness for an interest in Lan Jin. In the letter from the deceased, It was also mentioned that after death one wants to become blue gold, and the first suspect in this case is Huang Yan. It was also a month ago. I mentioned it to his former homeroom teacher. Can a person turn into blue gold after death? I seriously doubt it. This so-called freedom represented by blue gold. Translation error in short-term focus. Second point, self-inflicted wounds on the deceased's arm. The earliest one hasn't turned into a complete scar yet. This indicates that, translation error, such extreme behavior, the rough estimate of time is probably less than 15 days. This time is too short. Depression cannot progress so quickly. Third point, this is also the most important point. The forensic examination has revealed substances from the deceased's blood, residual drugs and medication detected, although the type of drug has not been determined yet. But the medication has already been confirmed as opioids for sedation and pain relief. These two things, they are all middle school biology topics. Restricted items that middle school students cannot come into contact with. All the evidence mentioned above. Let me have a reason to believe. There is definitely a hidden mastermind behind the scenes. As Su Ming finished his deduction, Zhu Chengsheng's face was already full of. Everyone is shocked and confused. How much talent must one have for this? Only by unraveling the details can one find the truth, reach a conclusion. What a shocking conclusion! Zhu Chengsheng was very certain. If he had just gone to find the deceased's homeroom teacher, inquire about the case, it's unlikely to be like Su Ming, uncover such hidden clues. But Zhu Chengsheng had to admit, Su Ming is not making random inferences. Instead, it gathered all the details and evidence. They have captured the key results to the extreme. Take a deep breath. Zhu Chengsheng suppressed the shock within him, nodded vigorously in response. Xiao Ming, your inference is very important. This full case. We must take this seriously. Subsequent reasoning. We also need to consider this person, the criminal suspect hidden somewhere unknown. But now is the most critical phase. The goal is still find Huang Yan. Searching for Huang Yan. The case has reached this stage. The most important thing, not only because Huang Yan is the witness to the entire Fall case. Furthermore, there are currently clues related to the deceased. It's already gone. If you want to expose the real criminals, then we must start from Huang Yan, striving to find more important clues. As the case became increasingly complex, Zhu Chengsheng conducted an urgent report with Lin Tian, with permission obtained. Someone will drive directly to Shud Middle School for reasons related to criminal cases. Translation error. Temporarily assigned to the criminal investigation team. Shen Ling also temporarily returned to the team. Hurry up. Start the autopsy. Analysis of drug types, specific causes of death and other such matters. Due to the divorce of the deceased's parents, both sides have formed their own families, but it also saved a lot of trouble. As for, no need to worry too much about the family. Rejection and anger towards the autopsy. After Shen Ling returned to the criminal investigation team first, Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng have also been quite busy. Now the two of them arrived at the side of Shud Secondary School's cafeteria. Beside them, Vice Principal Zhang Heng is accompanying with a great sense of responsibility, holding a bag of materials in hand. And there is also a blonde troublemaker who was temporarily caught. At this moment, he was pointing at the railing not far away. Two officers. It's right there. The iron railing on the side of the cafeteria. There are two ends in the middle, cut off by the previous senior students. just enough for us to walk past sideways. No need to climb the wall yet. After we go out here, it's just an inner alley. Just go straight ahead. We're almost at Linjiang Road. If you walk a few more steps along Linjiang Road, you can reach Coffee Bar Street. There are 2 internet cafes over there, usually at Shude Middle School. Many students. At midnight, we leave from here, secretly going online and drinking. The yellow-haired delinquent who has always been reckless. In front of Su Ming and Zhu Changsheng, dressed in brocade robes. Also appears particularly well behaved and honest. Dare not hide anything at all. Just directly ask the senior. The hard-earned path of happiness. Clearly explained. Su Ming did not hesitate at all. Directly dialed Wang Hu's phone. Beard, are you in the technology department now? Immediately pull up last night. Surveillance on Linjiang Road after midnight. Find a limping middle school girl. Focus on this. Linjiang Road is located near Shude High School. Translation error. It should be able to identify the target. After speaking, Su Ming then hung up the phone, looking at the verbal warning. Zhu Chengsheng, the delinquent with yellow hair, wait for the warning to end. Queuing Mao, the troublemaker, left nervously. Zhu Chengsheng shook his head, said helplessly, I really didn't expect that. Jude Middle School's militarized management. I can't believe there are still such paths existing. No wonder several big gates. No one noticed the limping suspect. By the way, Xiao Ming, I've already asked the technical department to start looking. Su Ming nodded. Just as I was about to answer, the phone in the pocket, the urgent ringing of the bell sounded. Immediately pick it up and say, Da Hu, how is it? Did you see it so soon? Is it confirmed that it's a limping middle school girl? Okay, got it. Send me the surveillance screenshots immediately. I will compare it here. Then we can confirm the identity. Okay. It will be sent immediately. Put down the phone again. Su Ming let out a slight breath. He glanced at Zhu Chengsheng, nodded gently. I found it. Last night at 1:30 a.m. There is a girl with a limp. Translation error. Judging by clothing and appearance. Approximately the age of between 14 and 16 years old. Matches our inference. This result undoubtedly let Zhu Chengsheng. He also let out a long sigh. Bit us, since it's in the surveillance footage. Discovered the limp suspect's lies. This undoubtedly proves that Su Ming's previous deduction. Completely correct. It's a little past 1 in the morning. A middle school girl who had already been advised to leave. Ming walks through the alley, leaving Shude Middle School, adding to the special relationship with the deceased. Although there is no direct evidence yet, but it can completely be regarded as witness to the suspect in the deceased's fall from the building. So, just follow along. Following this lead, we can get closer to the truth of the case. Getting closer and closer, and not use. Like a headless fly, searching everywhere for an entry point. Organizing the thoughts in my mind. Zhu Chengsheng spoke with great seriousness. So now, just need to find out where the lie is hiding now. A limping middle school student. Probably won't be able to go far. According to experience. Actually very likely. Just at home. We must find his home address. Before Zhu Chengsheng could finish speaking, I just brought Huang Mao over to show the way. Jiang Heng was also holding a set of documents. Hastily handed over the documents clutched under the night. Officer Zhu, wait a moment. Wait a moment. Here, in this material, information about the classmate with lies. Address, family, personality, communication and other information after Officer Sue asked me to collect. I will respond immediately. I printed it out neatly. I remember every detail very clearly. I just got busy because of you all. I also don't want to directly interrupt you. So now, don't wait for Zhang Heng to finish explaining. Zhu Chengsheng then took out this document. Directly flipped to the personal information page. First, it was sent by Wan Hu. Carefully compare the surveillance screenshots. He pointed again at the residential address. Can confirm it's the same person. The address is No. 23 Linjiang Mountain Villa. It's still a villa area. It seems the family is quite well off. Let's go. Xiao Ming. No matter if Huang Yan is at home or not, we all need to rush over to understand the situation. Xiao Ming's police car is delayed on the highway due to Huang Yan's possible suicidal tendencies. So Zhu Changsheng also acted at the fastest speed, arrived at his residence, Linjiang Mountain Villa. This villa area is just like its name. You can see the river view just by standing on the balcony. Even in the Magic City, the price is terrifyingly high, without any delay or pause. Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng walked directly over quickly, in front of the villa numbered 25, although the main door is tightly shut, but through the various flowers and plants in the courtyard, it can be determined that someone lives in this villa, and usually take good care of it. Su Ming stepped forward and pressed the doorbell, at the same time knocking on the door with a palm. To avoid this doorbell button is bad things waste time. The main reason is some people can tolerate the doorbell ringing, but I absolutely cannot tolerate the sound of knocking on the door. Will come out to open the door right away. Currently, the situation in Huangyan is unknown. Therefore, it must be incredibly realistic to the second. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, almost a full minute has passed. Still no one comes out to open the door. There wasn't even a response. Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng exchanged a glance. They instinctively took 2 steps back. Just as I was about to kick the door down, click, the sound of the door lock being opened is heard. Click. The sound of the door lock being opened from the inside was heard. A person in their 50s. There are no signs of skincare on the face. The middle-aged aunt with her hands still wiping water on her apron. As I opened the big door, while shouting, "Here it comes! Here it comes! Don't knock so hard anymore." I haven't finished speaking yet. I saw someone in a police uniform. Su Ming and Zhu Changsheng stood at the doorway. The sound suddenly stopped. Subconsciously realized, 2 officers. What are you doing? Is there a need for anti-fraud promotion? I have to say, the anti-fraud campaign is indeed doing well now, even women in their 50s. Seeing the police at the door, my first reaction was thinking they are anti-fraud police. Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng exchanged a knowing glance, determined the middle-aged aunt's instinctive reaction. It's not just a show of thickness. Suddenly, Su Ming took out his police badge from his pocket. Taking 2 steps forward, there is a path, and we are detectives from the Hue High District Criminal Investigation Team. It's not the anti-fraud police. Now, there is a major case. You need to cooperate with the investigation. Is Huangyan living here? When the words criminal police appeared, the middle-aged aunt clearly became nervous. After all, ordinary people rarely have the chance to encounter criminal police. He quickly nodded in response. Yes, yes. Xiao Yan lives here. Hey, what did he do wrong? Why did the police come to his house? Su Ming put away the police badge. Suddenly, he stepped through the door. Take the initiative. Ensure that even if this aunt has something, can also subdue it immediately. There was no deliberate choice to scare or threaten, but instead showed a gentle smile and said, "Didn't do anything wrong. Just a small matter. He just needs to cooperate with the investigation. By the way, Aunt, you are from Huangyan. Now, I am the nanny hired by this family." The middle-aged aunt is still very nervous. Lion Mangfei quickly explained. "Zhao Yan's parents are very busy with work, often won't return for several months at a time. So they hired me to take care of Zhao Yan. However, officer, are you making a mistake? Zhao Yan is usually very well behaved. They definitely won't make any mistakes. And speaking of which," this aunt deliberately lowered her voice. He continued with considerable attention. "Zhao Yan has a problem with his foot. It has never been cured. Zhao Yan's foot has a problem. It has never been cured. Now I feel very inferior because of my limp. Usually I keep to myself, locked in the bedroom and not coming out. These past few days, except for lunch and dinner time, we'll go downstairs to the restaurant. Other times, everyone is in their own bedroom, even skipping breakfast. How is it possible to go out and commit a crime?" Su Ming ignored it. These words are purely filtered. Even more sharp-eyed, caught a detail. Since Huangyan doesn't have the habit of eating breakfast. So this aunt, in the morning during this time, I haven't seen him either. Unable to determine, several hours ago, the safety of life this represents. Since last night at midnight, up until now, Huang Yan had enough time to commit suicide. But analyzing from erasing the footprints, Huang Yan probably won't choose. Commit suicide immediately. There must be more to do. So now every minute, the chances of saving Huang Yan are all possible. Raise a few points. Time is running out. Su Ming no longer hesitated, striding into the villa. Sternly said, "Don't worry, Aunt. The police will not wrong any good person. If Huang Yan did nothing wrong then, let's ask a few questions to understand better. That's enough. Now, I need you to point it out immediately. Where does Huang Yan lie?" Okay. The nanny aunt who wanted to say something more, seeing Su Ming's sharp gaze, suddenly shrank back, pointing with a finger. "That room. The room in the corner on the second floor. This is Zhao Yan's bedroom." I looked in the direction the nanny was pointing. Su Ming has already seen that door. A bedroom adorned with panda plushes. Immediately he quickly jogged upstairs. Zhu Chengsheng closely followed behind. Arriving at the bedroom, Su Ming reached out and turned the doorknob. I found I couldn't open the bedroom door. He then turned to Zhu Chengsheng. "There's no need to say anything at all." The two of them tacitly together stepped back to the edge of the corridor. 3 seconds later, the two of them directly exerted their strength, kicked the bedroom door with a big foot. The lock head broke directly. The bedroom door slammed heavily against the wall. The nanny aunt is still walking on the stairs. Seeing this scene, Zhang opened his mouth, but he didn't dare to say anything at all, because the intersection of attitudes between Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng, the nanny has already discovered. This matter is probably not that simple. Wisely chose to keep silent. After kicking the door open, Su Ming and Zhu Chengsheng, he immediately walked into the bedroom. I looked towards the bed at the first moment. Among the many bedroom suicide cases, most of the deceased will choose suicide in one's most familiar bed. But the next second, the two of them frowned in unison. The expression grew increasingly serious. "Because On the bed in this bedroom. There is simply no one there. There is only one person waiting. Big and small teddy bears, tossed carelessly onto the bed. Or rather, it's not just a simple bed, but it is Huangyan. Not in this bedroom at all. The nanny followed closely into the bedroom, also discovered Huangyan, not at all behind the bedroom,